Get into it. All right. All right, first live stream. Still trying to figure out how everything works. But yeah, let's just jump into the first video. This is a video by O'Shea about what's currently going on with Fresh and Fit. Let's see what they have to say.
Don't like you. You're fast. I just don't like you.
What's good, everybody? It's your boy, O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of the Celebrity Junk. The Fresh and Fit podcast is notorious for kicking out women on their show, but they're also notorious for disrespecting black people. This has become a repetitive theme within the complex of their show idea altogether.
Reparations are for okay. Black people need to just stop being lazy. You're not gonna get a handout, okay? We're not gonna give you your reparations because guess who's gonna have to pay for that? The middle class is gonna have to pay for it. Yes. Now, let's keep it 1,000. You get your reparations. What you gonna do with it? You'll buy a bunch of some Jordans, some drugs, some weed.
Now, in this instance, you hear Myron, of course, talking about how silly black people are for reparations. And then Fresh is sitting there just listening. Now, it'd be one thing if Myron was sitting there talking about blacks and then Fresh wasn't saying anything. But again, Fresh starts to get involved with it too. And he does more in this clip.
Yeah.
What good,
You gotta buy some Fendi. You gotta buy some
guns.
You can buy some guns.
Rob
Yeah. Like you are gonna spend the money in invest.
I'm gonna just say this right now. So I think he bought real estate with the money they made from Fresh and Fit, and I know he bought like a ton of cars and like jewelry and stuff with the money he made from Fresh and Fit, and he calls it like expenses for networking. But it's interesting that like the first thing that they talk about are just like stereotypes with what would be assumed that I guess the majority of black people would purchase if they were to get money from reparations. But I think their whole dynamic kind of just goes to show the dichotomy between both of them. Like he bought material things and he bought assets. And, you know, I just think it's stupid for them to even have this conversation when both of them kind of show the huge gap that there is when people come into money, regardless of race. You're gonna have people who buy, you know, materialistic things like clothes or TVs, and then you're gonna have people who invest the money or the capital into like assets that can make more money over time. So I'm curious to see like what they have to say, but then also what O'Shea has to say about this topic.
Let's go back to jail.
Majority are gonna do criminal.
Yep, 100%.
Come on, man. Let's keep it a million. Let's keep it
rim-
all the way a million.
Buy some rims. Oh yeah, look at the spin.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just said that this you know, I was about to cut, so I just said that this dude bought cars. I think he had like I know at one point he had like 5 different like exotic cars, like all of them over 200-300 grand. So it's crazy that he would say you're gonna buy rims when he used his capital from this show to invest. I don't know if he changed it since then. Like I haven't watched these guys in years, but I just think that it's crazy.
Hey, look at that spin.
Now, it's interesting. Whenever you consider Fresh dealing with, like, the Jews, he has the utmost respect for the Jews. So even if Myron starts going off on the Jews, Fresh will refuse to say anything. And again, they're implicating how silly blacks are for wanting reparations. And again, both of these guys got into America because of the Civil Rights Act of 1965 that helped other people like themselves. I believe Fresh is from Barbados and then Myron from Sudan. 2 guys who come from the African diaspora got into the country specifically because they were black and they benefited from the black struggle. But then it gets worse.
I could go fucking do shit with it. I tried being for like 6 months. That's your bro. Yo, listen, man.
Chains and all that.
Tried
So he says here, I tried being the N-word. It was the R-word, right? It was silly. It didn't make any sense. Now, here's a situation that you come across when you, as a black person, go around disrespecting black people, then what you don't understand is you're setting the tonality for somebody to come ahead and disrespect you also. And this is what a lot of blacks don't understand. When other groups, see you disrespecting black people, then technically they're gonna come out and they're gonna do the same exact thing to you one day. And then when it happens to you, all of a sudden, you're not ready for it. Well, it happened the other day on Fresh and Fit.
I'll say this, like, I think when you openly disrespect people or just disrespect people in general, you're allowing yourself to be a target to be disrespected yourself. You know, usually when you show respect to people, you know, people will show respect to you back. But I just don't think any of the comments that either one of them said was necessary. Even if you don't agree with reparations or not, like, you could have the conversation, but I think to automatically assume that a majority of black people are going to spend their money on stupid or misallocate their capital, I think it's stupid. Like, I don't think that was a necessary comment to make. But let's see what this guy has to say. I already know that he's about to go in because I know people been coming after Myron for like the last year or so, since he got really heavy into being anti-Semitic and then racist against black people. So I think he thought a lot of Caucasian people would agree with him, but you know, they might agree with him from a view perspective, but they still view him as, you know, a derogatory term.
Fresh, I just don't like you. You're a bitch ass. I just don't like you. And Myron, you tell guys to get into real estate. It's like, bro, the barrier for entry to that is so high. Like, you need to just tell people to buy Bitcoin. Really that simple.
So why am
I just don't like you, bro. I just, like, it's that simple.
Are you
I
white?
just don't like you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm white.
You just said the N-word?
Yeah.
It's interesting too because this guy, you can see that his heart is pounding extremely heavy, just with like his mannerisms. You can see that like he's very anxious to come out and say this. And I think also to say that you should just tell people to buy Bitcoin is also stupid, because it's like Bitcoin is like 100 and something thousand just to buy one coin. So even like, so like, let's say like back in 2016, like Bitcoin was at like 400 a coin. It would only need to make another $400 for you to double your money. So it just had to go from 400 to 800. But then now, for you to double your money in Bitcoin, it would have to go from like, let's just say it's 115,000 to 130,000, which is like, you're not going to double your money like that. So I mean, like, really, where the money is to be made in alts. But I'm kind of going way off topic. But I don't like any one of these guys on this. I won't say I don't like them, but I just don't agree with their opinion.
I didn't give you the pass.
I did.
I didn't give you the pass, though.
I don't need a pat. Don't need one. Did.
That is you, my friend.
So here's the
Never
thing, bro.
needed one.
All right, let me.
You need one, my friend.
I'm from the street. I'm from the street. Like, I'm really
No,
from
you're
the
not. You're a white
Yes,
boy
I
in
am,
your
brother.
mom's
Yes, I
basement.
am, bro.
Oh,
you can
bro,
ask
please,
about me.
please.
Ask about me in the area that I live in, brother. You can ask about me.
Where you live at?
I live in Dallas. You can ask about
Dallas,
me, bro.
Texas?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go inside and sit in the street. I promise you, they'll beat your ass.
I do it all the time, brother. I got tons
No,
of
you
homies
don't.
in the hood,
No,
bro. I got
I
homies in
don't-
South Dallas. I got
Bro,
homies in East
hold
Dallas.
on.
I got homies in
I
North
don't Dallas. You said
I got homies everywhere, brother.
You're a
Bro, I see through your fake ass facade, brother.
What
I
facade?
see through it.
I am me on camera,
like
having
this
fun.
one.
I got the lifestyle you wish you had, and you're in your mom's basement probably. Oh, bro. Okay. Okay. And I said the N-word. You want a brownie? You're not Nick Fuentes, bro. He can say it. You got to pass. You don't.
You're not Nick.
You're not.
Okay. I'll say this. I don't think anybody has a pass. I don't agree with to kind of backtrack to what I said earlier. Like, when you allow, like, if you allow Nick Fuentes to say that around you, and then you're gonna get offended when somebody else says it around you because they don't have the pass or you didn't give them the pass. Like, it's a very hypocritical like standpoint, because of the fact that you're allowing one person to say it and not another. And then so let's just say that Nick Fuentes said that word to me, and I didn't agree with that. But then he was like, no, it's like Fresh. Like, this guy is like, it's cool. I gave him a pass. I don't go. I don't care if you gave him a pass or not. Like, I don't like that. So just because you think that you gave him a pass that one time, it's fine. So now, like, let's just say that this white guy had a pass from some other black dude, and then now he came and said it to Fresh. Now Fresh is upset and saying that it's okay if my other white friend says it, but you can't say it. Like, it's so stupid. Like, the pretty much my whole view is like a majority of people who have this kind of mindset are hypocritical, I'll give it to myself too. Sometimes I'm a hypocrite when it comes to certain things, and I have to analyze the situation, and I have to admit that I was wrong when having a certain view or saying certain things or my viewpoint on certain stances. And like, I think you have to admit that you're wrong sometimes, and a majority of people who are aligned aren't going to admit that they're wrong. They're going to double down and triple down, or especially when it comes to like things that are a touchier subject like race or political views.
Nick, bro.
So now here we have a white guy who calls Fresh a B-A-N. Now it was shocking because Fresh said, wait a minute, I didn't give you a pass to use the N-word, so stop the show. It's okay for you, who is a immigrant to America and black, but you refer to black Americans as the N-word, all right? And you talk down on blacks, but now the person is white and they need to get a pass from you to say the N-word? Well,
Yeah,
see, the
saying.
reality
That's
is
stupid.
they see you being disrespectful towards blacks. So when you're disrespectful towards blacks, then there is no reason for them to respect blacks either, okay? Because you're not showing any respect for yourself. And then the guy repeats it. He says, you heard what I said, B-A-N. Then Fresh says what? Well, you wouldn't say that in front of other blacks. You couldn't go to Dallas and say that. Well, the reality is, Fresh, you wouldn't go to Dallas and say that. You wouldn't say anything that he's saying. You nor Myron will go around saying what he's saying in front of blacks, because you guys talk even worse about blacks than what he's doing. And what people would see is the white guy, yeah, he shouldn't use the N-word, but he's saying, check my credentials. People know about me. Ask about me. Like, what's the problem? Folks know who I am. Folks know how I get down, right? So he basically saying he's running with the blacks. He just happened to be white. So in other words, I got more pull in the black community than you.
Okay, I don't know about all that. I don't know about that. That's assuming a lot of things. That's assuming that he's actually telling the truth about being in the streets and hanging out with black people. And I mean, maybe he is. I mean, I don't know him. I've been called a nerd myself, and I grew up in the suburbs, so it's like I haven't really been in the streets like that per se. But I don't know. I don't agree with what O'Shea said there. I kind of think it's just assuming that he has pull. I think it was very bold for him to say that he lives in Dallas, because I mean, it could just take it's like one or two apps you could use and you could find out his identity. So I mean, maybe he's on the outskirts of Dallas somewhere, but.
And when I'm calling you the N-word, for me, I'm not looking at it as racist. That's just what I think you are. But see, Fresh is not ready for that type of smoke. And many dudes ain't ready for that type of smoke. And see, this is what I want to tell you guys. When you're in front of other groups and other communities, you really got to be careful of what you're saying about the black community in front of those folks. Let me give you an example. I was living in Poland, okay? And it was a brother that was from, I'm not going to say the country, but it's a big African country. And he was talking down on the problems in this country. The country's very well known. They're a trendsetter, so you can probably figure out what it was. So he was saying, look, the country I have is corrupt. The people are corrupt. Folks steal. Then he shifted the conversation to talking about the women. Like, the women in my country, all they want is money. All they want is this. All they want is that. And I'm sitting there because he's having a conversation with us and a few other blacks. And I was concerned. I'm like, hey, bro, do you actually tell this to white people? He said, yeah, why not? It's the truth. I said, well, you may feel that it's the truth, my brother, but you got to understand.
Yo, the way this dude is smiling is so funny to me. But anyways, let's jump back into it. I think it's wild how like people criticize I know we're kind of talking about black people, but like you'll have black people that criticize other black people to in a very like extreme view. But then like I've had friends like from other races who like feel comfortable around me to like do the exact same thing. So like Indian people, or like you could say brown or Middle Eastern people, Asian people, white people. Like I've heard everybody kind of talk down on like their country, or like the women in their country, or how hard it is to make it in their country, or Like everybody kind of has like a like somewhat of a like negative viewpoint on the environment in which they grew up in and why it's difficult for them to to succeed to the level that they want to succeed at, or to have the type of life that they would want to have, and that's why they'll travel or go to different countries or talk down on their own people or their own environment or circumstance or whatever. And I just don't think that that's the right mindset to have, because everybody has you know um their own struggles in life and everything like that. But I just think that it's very weird, like when you see people who talk down on their own people. I just don't agree with that whatsoever. Like whatsoever. And I don't think you should talk bad about other people either, like other races or groups of people. But um, I have my own viewpoints with certain topics and stuff. But I think you have to take everything by a case by case basis. Like, yeah, you're gonna have countries that you don't agree with, or you may not agree with the politics that are currently going on in your country, or maybe you've been like taken advantage of by certain people. But I think when you kind of group an entire I think when you put everybody into a certain group based off the experience you've had with a handful of people, I just don't think that that's a good way to view the world, or to uh come across to other people, especially people you don't know, or people from other groups who might have a completely different opinion than you.
You're living in Europe, and people here are already hostile towards us as blacks. And I was talking to him in that way because when you live in Poland, it's not like, let me be honest. When you live in Poland, people don't look at you as,
Oh, it's pretty nice.
you're Ghanaian, or you're South African, or you're Jamaican, or you're Nigerian, or you're Black American. They look at you as all black, and you're from Africa. Everybody, right? So once you go out there and you start saying that, then it hurts the impression of blacks all across the city. So anyways, he ended up getting with this particular Polish lady. And of course, he was going around allegedly saying the same things I told him not to say. Okay. He was talking to her about the things that I'm talking to you about now. And so when he did it, they initially had a fight. Not a physical fight, but they was arguing. And then what did she start to use against him as ammo? She was saying, you in my country, like your country is corrupt. Your people are this. This is what you do. And while it might not have been the exact N-word type of thing that she used, it was she definitely used some language to let him know that as a black person he was less than. And so then he felt really bothered by that. And he felt like, oh, well, you're being racist. Like, you're being racist towards me. How can you be racist towards me? Like, that's not right. So now he wants to cry and play the victim role, right? So again, you want to play the victim role, but then again, you were not saying that when you were going around talking about your own community in front of the whole entire world to see. Even if you don't like black women, you don't like black men, when you're in front of other groups and people are watching, they watch it how you treat your people. They watch it, right? They watch it. And you are the number one person that can teach others how to treat you. I want to give a shout out to Steve Dean. It's been a long time since we did the show, but he says, you teach people how to treat you. And this is the reality of.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, pretty much like what I said earlier. When if you disrespect other people, people most likely disrespect you back. But if you treat people with respect or show respect, usually you'll get it back. I mean, even if somebody disagrees with you, they can disagree with you in a respectful manner, instead of being disrespectful. And then I think it also kind of comes down to like human nature. Like, let's say you have a disagreement with somebody and you actually talk to them about the disagreement or the transgression or whatever it is that you have with them in a respectful manner. There's a video I was watching yesterday, and I'm trying to figure out how to explain it. This guy came to his house, and his neighbors had parked in his driveway because they had like a huge party going on, and he was away for 2 weeks, so they didn't know he was coming back that day. And he was like, "Can you move your car, please?" And then she was just like, "Oh, we're so sorry, we didn't know that you were coming back." And he was just like, I shouldn't even need to come and ask you to move the car." And he kind of got so disrespectful after after that first interaction. And she just said she would have somebody come move the car, but it's the fact that he jumped off the handle, and then the whole family came out, and it was like 20 different family members against this one guy. And then it was like the uncle came, and he was like, you know what, I'm tired of this. He was like, come back and go get my gun. And then the guy was like, I'm sorry. Like, but like I said, it's like, if you come with people with respect and you handle situations with respect, you'll get respectful responses to things, and usually things work out in your favor. I mean, like, I think a majority of the reason why we have people that get into shootouts or to have these huge things that we see on the internet is just because it's ego, and then people just being disrespectful or feeling disrespected. And you know I just think it's always better to be respectful, even if you disagree.
Of it all, yes, you do. And when you go out there and you act silly like that, and then people start coming towards you with that same kind of racism, and all of a sudden now it's too hard. Same thing that's happened to Myron. I'm not even going to play the clip, but we've already heard it. Myron has had multiple instances where he's been talking down on blacks, similar to what we have seen just now. Said some of the most disrespectful things. He will go to the white supremacist chat rooms. And do you think that they give him any kind of credit for him talking down?
All right, and I'll say this: like, I'm in a couple of like white supremacist groups, or like, I guess, like racist Facebook pages and Instagram pages and like chats and all that type of jazz. And it's very interesting to see like how they view black people. And like, I never really say anything in these groups. I mean, unless it's kind of like there's like the room for debate, or I kind of get that vibe. But it is very crazy to see like the way these people use AI to create the craziest memes, or like the craziest viewpoints, and try and logic their way into viewing that their viewpoint is an acceptable viewpoint. And I mean, like, in my opinion, it's like, if you're racist, I mean, that's fine. I just think that, like, the mindset, it somewhat interests me, because I'm like, why are you so obsessed with viewing a certain race or a group of people in a certain way, that you have all this hatred in your heart? Like, I just think it's crazy, man. I think it's crazy. But I also think it's crazy when you have people that are of their race that they hate. You know what I'm saying? And that you're agreeing with them on their viewpoints. And then when they come back and say, you know what, yeah, you're a good one, but you're one of the good ones, but we still don't like you, but at least your mind's in the right space. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Like, it's just, I don't get how Myron logics his way through life with the perspectives that he has, and then thinks that it's acceptable. Now, I'm learning a lot about the internet as far as like when it comes to content, but it seems as though some people are completely fine with are kind of like being like the scapegoat, if you will, to get the views and then get money and whatever. And maybe their views in their personal life, or like how they maneuver in their personal life, is completely different than how they view or they want to be perceived online. But as far as like the Myron that I've seen online, I don't really think that his viewpoint is solid. But maybe like offline he's a cool guy. You know what I mean? He doesn't have those same strong views when it comes to meeting people online, because I've heard him say a lot of stuff about Jewish people or black people, but I'm pretty sure that, like, in his everyday life, if a Jewish person were to come to him with like some business, or a black person were to come with him with some business, or even if they were just to interact through their network, I think he would probably be respectful. I mean, like, if he's going that hard in real life, I mean, that's crazy work, and I don't think that it's sustainable.
On blacks, nah, you don't get no credit for that. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, well, we're gonna give you somewhat of a pass. No, they're not gonna give you no pass. What happens? They talk to you crazy like they would talk to another person's adversary, because they don't respect you. You don't respect your people. The biggest people that white supremacists respect are those people who are the exact opposite of them for their groups. All right, if you're a white supremacist, want to know who you respect? Most likely somebody in the Nation of Islam. All right, this is why the Ku Klux Klan and Elijah Muhammad, actually the Ku Klux Klan was trying to fund Elijah Muhammad and them to stay separate. That was the respect. The respect was, we don't like each other, but we want to stay away from each other. Then, ironically, if you ever want to be friends, it got to be built on respect first. Okay, so you down for your community, and I'm down for my community. But the moment you start, kowtowing in,
I'll say this as well. Like, I've kind of seen it from both sides, like black people and white people, or like I'll just say groups as a whole, like races as a whole. Like some people are very like fine with diversity. Like, I love diversity. I think it's cool. Diverse cultures and learning about other people and, their viewpoints in the world is like something that I find very interesting. But then, like when it comes to people who are racist, they're like, man, I don't go, I don't care at all about like the damn tacos or the dang acai bowls or beans and mash. I'm just trying to think of other or spaghetti and meatballs or pizza or orange chicken. You know what I'm just saying? Like I'm just trying to say like people who are racist will probably not care about trying different cuisines or caring about another person's culture or their viewpoints on the world or their perspective. And I just want to stay with my own people. And they might not even hate, like, so for instance, some of the people in the group that I mentioned earlier that I'm in, they don't really seem like they hate black people, but they hate like interracial couples, and they're perfectly fine with, the groups that they hate or whatever, just living amongst each other. But when it comes to like the relationship aspect or sleeping with somebody from another race, that's the part that just it hits like a nerve and it triggers them to be like just go off the handle. And it's wild to me how people will allow their life to be controlled by somebody else's personal decision. Now, I mean, if there's their friend or their family, I still think that that's crazy. But like for instance, I remember it was one of my buddies who was he was dating a girl who was Middle Eastern, and in she was like, my family can never know that I'm with a black guy. And I was just like, dude, that's crazy. But like I could kind of understand it somewhat from like a being a father or like a parent standpoint. And not saying more so like from being a racist, but I can understand like being concerned with the outlook from other people. So like I know I'm kind of digging myself into a hole here, but when you're talking about like interracial like marriages or relationships and stuff like that, if your viewpoint on black people is only what you see on like TV or movies or what you see on YouTube or social media, you're gonna probably think that, oh yeah, like my daughter is with a black guy and he's most likely a thug, or he most likely does drugs or is in a gang and stuff like that. But then it's like if that's your viewpoint on black people, but then like let's say you've never been experienced or been exposed to, like I would just say like normal people. I think a majority of people are normal people, like from every race. And but if you kind of just go based off stereotypes or things that you see or hear about or other people's experiences without even giving the person a chance, I think that that's crazy. But so what I was talking about with it when it comes to, being a parent and being concerned, I think that a parent is always going to be concerned with whoever their child is dating, and their emotions could be a little bit more driven regardless of race or background or anything. A parent is always going to be concerned. So that's what I meant by that. I didn't mean that I can understand a parent not liking or wanting to be with somebody from another race, but I just mean in general, being emotionally I won't say control, but your emotions are a lot more involved when it comes to being a parent. So that's what I meant when I said that. Just need to clarify that. But let's get back into the video because it's almost done. it's crazy because this video is like 12 minutes. I don't know how long I've been live for, but it's been a while.
trying to, talk down on other people, other blacks at the behest of the whites, because you are doing it on some of the whites' behalf, not all of them. They end up disrespecting you. So bruh come on the channel and he just started clowning them. Now he might think he black. He might not mean it as a racist thing, even though what he's doing is wrong. But he's like, look, man, I'm in South Dallas. I'm in Dallas, wherever he said he was from. Like, I go out there and say it like I'm one of them. You the one that's not one of them. In other words, I'm more black than you. Now, I can guarantee you, I have never heard nobody, no white person, come on Dr. Umar Johnson scream and say there's many problems he got. I ain't never heard nobody say it on Boy stream. Many problems does he have? I ain't never heard nobody say it on Tariq Nasheed's stream. I ain't never heard nobody say it on nobody's stream, but I done seen several instances of people going up to Fresh and Fit after they have clowned black people and get disrespected like that. I've seen multiple instances. I've seen people do the same thing to Candace Owens, talk about her like that, as much buffooning as she does. Again, who you doing all that for? Respect your.
Yeah, I think that kind of comes down to like the audience and content you're putting out. Like if you're, speaking hate or being disrespectful, and that's what's getting you views, it's like, yeah, of course you're gonna get people who might have similar views to you, but then they're just gonna come and be disrespectful to you back. I mean, like you said, like I've never heard any those like Boyce Watkins or I forgot what the other guy's name was. But anyways, I've never heard of them having any issues like that. But I just think it's crazy, man. Like I just don't think that it's respectful to down talk people like
you ain't
that.
gotta put down your community to get no respect from them. What are they giving you anyways? The white people are non-blacks who dislike black people will never give you anything anyway because they don't like your ass either. Okay, so you validating what they think is not gonna help you no way. You will only get validation from somebody if you have a power move. You make folks respect you. This is the same play the gays did. The LGBTQ community got where it's gotten today largely because of forcing respect. Same thing with the Muslims. I remember after 9/11.
I'm not gonna lie, we gotta go back. I don't know why, but this dude's laugh is so funny to me. Or his face, like his face. I don't know what his laugh sounds like, but his face, the way he's smiling right now. Now, I know I might get canceled for saying some shit like that because he could be slow. So let me retract that. Let me go back. Because I'm slow myself. So we'll just bring that back. And we're just gonna rewind.
Same thing with the Muslims. I remember after.
But then also you might agree with me on that one. You might agree with me and be like, I never I was thinking the same shit. So I mean, like I feel you. Like we tapped in.
9/11, it was almost free reign on hatred towards Muslims.
No, I remember that.
Time. I mean, you can say almost anything. Same thing. To a certain degree, not as bad. But what happened with the Asian community after COVID? They nipped that in the bud real quick. That Asian hate crime thing, bill came in quick. That Muslims have they got that together.
And I'll say this, like, I think when it comes down to the reason why people from different groups will hate each other is because of the news, man. Like, or like the stuff that they see online and these stereotypes. Like, for instance, like I have a lot of Asian friends. I have friends from every like different like background or group of people. Because like I said, I like to figure out how other people are thinking, and it kind of like helps me with like, my process of figuring out like how people in the world are thinking. But I have a lot of Asian friends, and when the whole thing came out with COVID, and I think it was Wuhan, China, and they said it's like somebody ate a bat or something like that. I'm like how, like let's do some introspection. I can't even pronounce the word, but anyways, let's do some introspective work and let's think about what stereotypes of the people that you would consider your group or your people. So like if you're black, like black people, or white people, or let's just say even when it comes down to the region of the country that you live in. Let's say that there are plenty of people who do weird things and who do bad things in a group that you're in, because we're all part of a group, whether you like it or not. Like, we're all part of a group one way or another. There are people in every race, every group, every ideal or idea driven group, or whatever it is, or religion. There are plenty of people who do bad things in every group. and you'll allow for your viewpoint on that group to be dictated by the acts of a few people. And then you would just assume that everybody in that group does X, Y, and Z. And we're gonna have to go into a really deep video one day. There is a I can't remember what it was called, but it was the Lottery of Birth. That was a documentary I watched. And I watched this documentary like over 10 years ago with one of my best friends, but it pretty much just says that, your group, like the people you group yourself with, or how your ideals or your viewpoints stand from the Lottery of Birth. So what is the religion that your parents practice? What is the region that you grew up in? What's the race that you're part of? And all of that is dictated by your parents. When you're brought into this world, you're just dealt the cards that are dealt to you. And your viewpoints on what's right, what's wrong, you know, the way you view the group of people that you're associated with, the religion that you follow, or if you don't follow religion, that's also a category. If you're atheist, your parents could have been atheists, or you could have came from a super religious background and then you just chose to be atheist. But all of that kind of was dictated by your upbringing. And I'm kind of going all over the place with this, but we'll leave it there. And I'm gonna remember to do a video about the Lottery of Birth, and we'll go deeper into those type of topics.
Quick, okay? Same power play the Jewish community use. All right? They make people respect them. And the blacks gotta do the same thing. And you can never make somebody respect you by laughing at your own community because you're showing them that you're not no threat, you're defenseless. Nobody will respect a person that's defenseless. Nowhere. Not in Africa, especially not in Africa. You'll get walked over here. Guys, what do you think? It's your boy Shitty Jackson back at it again.
Cool, that's the first video, so we got a couple of videos we're gonna go through today. I forgot I had this thing open too. See the chats. XRP is the new Bitcoin, me and Tony 12. Oh my god. Thanks for the comments, Pretty Bunny. Alright, so let's just see. So I have all these videos. You know what? Let's check out this one. What makes this town flood-proof?
Of the 15 most damaging hurricanes in U.S. history, only 2 were Category 5.
Hurricane category.
So I like to just watch a lot of different videos to get perspective on how people in the world are thinking, and then also to just learn more about the world around me. So this one is how water makes this town you probably think I'm stupid. How water makes this town flood-proof. Wall Street Journal Pro perfected.
Categories are based on wind speeds and only wind speeds.
But what often creates the most damage is water.
Given all of the new codes, most homes can really survive Category 5 winds. However, they can also float away fully intact.
I say this, like, one of the things that I found interesting, which was a data point, I can't remember the specific numbers, but I think like 75%, it was like 70, 75, maybe somewhere in the 70s of the human population lives near bodies of water. So like most major towns, even the towns that are landlocked will usually be, well, I can't even say, like, that sounds kind of stupid for me to say it that way, but even a majority of cities that are technically like landlocked will be like have like bodies of water. So like let's say Detroit, for instance, you have, I think it's Lake Ontario. Man, no, I think it's the Great Lakes. You know what, for me to get this right, let's just bring up another tab. No, because then that's gonna bring up my thing. I don't want to make this is live. So I think it's the, hang on, let me look it up on my phone, because I think it's the Great Lakes that is Detroit and not Lake Ontario. Lake Michigan. Oh, that's Chicago. Lake Erie, and what is this one? Lake Heron. I don't know that one. Okay, so we'll just say, for instance, Chicago is Lake Michigan. So it's technically, landlocked. It's not near a major ocean, but it has a Great Lake. Or even, Toronto has Lake Ontario. And Cleveland is what I was thinking about. Cleveland Cleveland is Lake Erie, which is what I was thinking was Lake Michigan or whatever it is. But anyways, so I was kind of stupid on that one. So Cleveland has Lake Erie. It's technically landlocked, but it has a lake instead of an ocean. But when you look at a majority of the major cities in the eastern part of the United States, it's all near the Atlantic Ocean. And then like even on the western part of America is all on the Pacific Ocean for the most part. And I know a lot of that kind of comes down to like shipping and trade and logistics and all that stuff. But then I'm kind of going way off topic with this, but I just find it interesting. Like I've never been part of a hurricane. Like I've had rain from hurricanes and stuff like that. Thank God, let's knock on some wood for it. Thank God for that one, because when I see it, it's so scary. Like I can't just imagine, like, let's just say like it's raining outside, it's thundering, and let's just say that there's a hurricane outside, and it's raining, and then all of a sudden you look at the door and you just start seeing water seep in, or you look at a window and you start seeing water seep through the window. And I'd be like, yo, what the hell is going on? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I know that has to be such a terrifying thing to happen, because your home is your safe space. And for your home to no longer be safe has to be a scary experience to go through, especially when you don't know how much water is going to come in and how long the storm is going to last, or even if your roof is going to come off the next second. So many things that could potentially happen. I know that has to be scary, but I'm really curious to see like how this town stays waterproof.
Yet, this one town, Babcock Ranch, has been hit by 4 hurricanes and basically came out unscathed.
There was no flooding at all.
So, we asked the engineer who helped build this town to break down its hidden designs.
I'm going to say this also. I think it's really interesting when there are things that take a lot of capital and take a lot of manpower to be implemented, because of the fact that there's the chance that it won't work. So like for instance, when they said the man who designed this town or whatever, like I'm curious what gave him the credentials and what gave the mayor or whoever decided to fund it and then just see it through, what gave them the conviction to decide to go through with it. Because let's just say that they did this, let's say it cost $30 million and it failed. Because this happens all the time, but people rarely talk about the things that, are implemented and then fail. But people always talk about the things that are implemented and succeed. So I'm curious to see, like, maybe they'll put it in a video. Maybe we'll have to do some more deep diving into it. But I'm curious.
Here's Babcock Ranch from above, with Fort Myers and Cape Coral nearby. For a lot of the surrounding areas,
Everything is developed very grid-like, which is traditional because it utilizes the land the best.
but this type of development doesn't always consider how nearby wetlands expand and absorb excess floodwater.
You do have a waterway that flows right through here. These areas.
I'll also put this into because I saw this recently. Like, there's a town that didn't have a lake, but it was just surrounded by mountains, and the issue was it became flooded because the water didn't have anywhere to escape. I think that happened like a year or two ago from the hurricane. But yeah, I had a buddy that lived out there, and like, you know, he worked at a hospital, and they were just the whole town was just pretty much just flooded because the water wasn't able to escape anywhere. So I know about the like the lakes and ponds and all that type of jazz. And then when the rain just gets too much, you know, the streets flood, because I've seen that before. Like I've been in situations like that before, but I've never been into an actual hurricane where the hurricane was the cause of it. It was just heavy rain for like weeks on end.
That used to act as a sponge are kind of all taken up by development. And so these areas are very prone to flooding.
Babcock Ranch took a different approach. These photos show part of the ranch before and after it was developed. All the dark patches are wetlands, and you can see how the ranch was built around them, leaving some areas where they'll flood and connect untouched.
It was very important to us to utilize the existing water systems.
But it didn't just leave these systems intact. Babcock Ranch also mimicked them.
I'll say this, I really like the view of I think they call it Babcock Ranch. I really like the view and like the architecture and like the structure of how, like I don't really like the houses, you know. I mean, if you live there, I'm sorry, but like I don't really like the houses per se, but I like for instance, you kind of have this like little pond, and I don't know if this is like part of a lake or a river. Well, you know, it kind of looks like it would be more so like a lake, but you know, over here it kind of looks like it could catch some water. You know, anyways, I like this, man. Like I think it's unique and it has like it's a little bit. I'll just keep it at that. It's unique. I like that.
To do this, they turned the ponds and lakes into a network of bowls.
Oh, it
So
is
the
like
way the entire system is designed is each of these lakes acts like a very bottom of a bowl, and the rest of the system is built up around the edges of the bowl, and it sits a little bit higher. So you have the houses at the highest point, and the houses, the water falls off of it and it goes down into the bowl.
Each bowl is connected through a series of pipes underground. That way, if one lake fills up, it won't spill over. It'll just drain to a different bowl with more capacity. Then, if there's a blockage, all these extra pipes help ensure the water keeps flowing. And Babcock's system lets them control the water levels, allowing them to drain the bowls before hurricanes to accommodate the extra water, which
That's
is eventually
interesting.
discharged down to the river.
There
That
is
is
a
super
ditch
interesting.
that runs right through the middle of the property and all the way out to the river here. Traditional design would say to move the water.
You know, I may have made a sexist comment earlier. I thought they said it was a guy who did this, but I wonder if it was her. Like, I mean, you know, I don't know. Maybe she is the person who came up with the idea. I just thought I heard them say he when they said it. So, um, if she is a lady, I apologize. Like, I just thought they said he, but maybe they said she.
Or through that ditch as fast as possible. What we've done at Babcock is we've allowed that water to come out to the fringes of the development and fill in this entire area.
Slowing the water down lets the wetlands absorb some of the
Oh,
water,
that is so interesting.
preventing an onslaught of stormwater from inundating the river and surrounding areas. The next key to managing hurricane flooding is elevation. Babcock Ranch's natural elevation ranged from 12 to 38 feet.
So generally anything that falls within the development footprint overall was elevated.
But certain areas
Now, like, this is kind of me just being a nerd real quick, but I'm curious if the insurance company would be willing to fund some of this because of the fact that any of the houses that they insure within Babcock Ranch they would still collect the insurance from it, but then they also wouldn't need to there's the likelihood of them not needing to pay out claims as much for housing insurance. So I'm curious if other like towns or cities in Florida were to adapt this, if the major insurance companies would be willing to fund it, because it technically, and you know that kind of also wouldn't make sense either, because you kind of need the risk for it to even make sense for people to have the house insurance. But maybe yeah, that's interesting. I'm curious because I could see both sides. Like I could see them doing it to prevent and still collect, you know, premiums from people, but then I could also see it as like if you made it to where none of these houses were ever flooded or anything during a hurricane or whatever, but you know, I just know that the risk that comes to because I know a lot of insurance companies left Florida after that last hurricane that happened like a year or two ago, and I'm curious if they would be willing to go back there for more because you know you're gonna have to have housing insurance regardless. So, but maybe you wouldn't get the hurricane insurance. But I can still see it as being an issue because there's always that likelihood that maybe it's not the water that gets you, but maybe it's debris. You know, maybe one of these trees just knocks over into this house. You know, God forbid. I mean, not knock on wood, or you know, I'm sorry if you live there, but let's just say that one of these trees knocks onto a random house. We'll just say a random house, and that would still need to be covered by insurance. But the likelihood of it flooding wouldn't need to be covered, and you can still charge a premium to the client or whatever. Anyways, I'm kind of nerding out with that part, but I'm curious if the insurance company funded any of this of the infrastructure that needed to be done to make Babcock Ranch a reality.
of the town were elevated higher than others, directing water towards specific collection points.
The smaller roads were elevated by about 3.5 feet. The larger roads were elevated by approximately 4.5 feet. And then any of the homes were elevated by about 5 feet.
Now, the majority of the community is at or above 30 feet. In a 100-year storm event, the ranch would face about 14 inches of rainfall, and the water levels would rise by about 4 feet. And all of the homes...
Man, that is so interesting. That is really interesting because it's like, yeah, the roads are bad, but the houses are fine, which is your main investment. Like, I mean, the roads could always be, fixed over time at a way lesser cost than having to fix the whole home that's been flooded or the damage that kind of comes around with that.
Homes on Babcock would be 1 foot above the water level. Its grocery store and some...
And you also had to think, like, the probabilities of you having a storm that's going to go above 5 feet, at least based off what they're talking about, going above 5 feet. Like, let's just say that these homes are able to last, like, 200-300 years, or, who knows what's going to happen in 200 and 300 years. But let's just say that the home is able to last for more than one of those random storms that end up going above 5 feet. You're still safer, you're still better and safer off than, like I mentioned earlier, like if you're looking at the front door and then you start seeing water creep in, if it's already at 5 feet, you probably shouldn't have been there in the first place. I'm just saying based off what they're saying, but the damage isn't going to be as bad as if you didn't have that wiggle room or that alpha, or I can't even think of what the word, that the arbitrage between the 5 and 0 feet. So let's just say that it was at ground level and you didn't have that 5 feet. You're already talking about water being 5 feet in your house without that. So I think that was really interesting. It's so interesting how people come up with this, and they're like, people make money from doing stuff like this, or working on this day and night or for years. And I'm glad that it worked out, man. That's
offices
cool.
2 feet above it.
So if things were to be catastrophic, we want to be able to bounce back as quick as possible. So being able to go get your groceries, being able to go to work, those types of things need to be the first accessible places.
But while all the buildings would be safe, the roads would be completely flooded by design.
At a certain point, they're going to go underwater because they were what was built the lowest. We can intentionally use those roads to help direct the flow to allow the water to connect between the lake and the roads away from the homes and the structures.
But much of the ranch's success also lies in its location. It's about 20 miles inland from Florida's west coast. And that distance alone is enough to mostly protect it from the deadliest force in a hurricane, storm surge. As hurricanes move inland, they push a huge volume of water ashore at high speeds and with immense force.
It's going to pull the water from the Gulf and push it all the way inland this way.
Take Hurricane Helene.
Hurricane Helene kind of took the path here and made landfall around the Keaton Beach, Steinhatchee area, where 80% of the buildings were completely destroyed from storm surge being 12 to 16.
That was the storm I was talking about. That was it, because it was like I guess it was September of last year. That was it.
Feet overall.
But as a storm moves inland...
So a 9-foot storm surge on the beach, for example, would get up to the rafters in the house. What you'll see is a 9-foot storm surge here is only a 3-foot storm surge here.
Florida's coastline is lined with mangroves that act as a natural buffer, slowing down the storm surge and trapping debris.
Anything that's creating friction for that water is going to also help slow that water down.
But far away from the dangers of the coast, rainfall still poses a significant threat. About 25% of hurricane deaths in the U.S. occurred in inland counties.
As we've seen more and more storms that are exceeding 100-year events across the United States, it appears more and more likely that designing to a 100-year storm event is not going to be enough to keep a home from flooding over the course of its built life.
There's a 1% chance every year that a 100-year storm event will happen. And since Amy started working on this project,
we've seen 3 100-year storm events.
Oh, wow. That's crazy, boy. That's crazy. I wonder when they started the project, and dang, that's crazy. So you built a system that would survive a 100-year storm event, but then it's happened 3 times in less than 100 years, because she doesn't look 100 years old. So That's
Hurricanes
crazy.
have cumulatively caused over 7,000 deaths and cost $1.5
That's so
trillion
sad.
in damages since 1980. And Florida is one of the most vulnerable places in the country. So, while the current laws mandate many homes be built to withstand a 100-year event, some developers are building beyond the requirement. Just look at Hunters Point, a new coastal development. It was required to build at an elevation of 10 feet above the flood zone, but instead, it was built 16 feet above it. So, during Hurricane Helene, the streets flooded, but the homes remained dry. Each one that sold has gone for upwards of $1 million.
Yeah, I was just about to say that there's a premium with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's always going to be a way to make money and to sell the safety of, them having to, let's just say them building above the 10 feet requirement by 6 feet. Let's say every extra foot could be 10 grand. So like that's an extra $60,000 premium that they're able to charge. I'm kind of going to finance. It's supposed to be a normal channel, but there's a premium that there is. So like let's just say that it cost them 5 grand. Let's say it cost them we'll just say a grand. Let's just say it takes them a 1 grand per foot. So they're investing an extra 6 grand to build a property, but then they're giving, they're selling it off, the developer, whoever is selling it off for, pretty much a 10x premium uh for each foot that they added for that safety. And people are willing to pay for that safety. A house is a decent investment. Now, like when it comes to commercial real estate, I'm curious what that one's like, because commercial real estate is almost always ground level for the most part. I mean, you could try and elevate it a little bit, but majority of this, I'm pretty sure a majority, I don't know, I'm not in Florida, so I have no idea, but I would assume that commercial real estate has the same issue, but they don't have the option, for the most part, to elevate like that.
There is a larger push from people who have experienced flooding situations to purchase those types of homes.
Yeah,
I think
that's
ultimately we can prevent the amount of destruction that we've been seeing with hurricanes. People are going to want to move to Florida no matter what. We're prepared to be more resilient and move on quicker. And that's a big part of making sure that we're developing responsibly if we are going to develop an area that is subject to such extreme events.
That's interesting. Well, I said I was gonna do this live stream from like an hour, but I like doing these videos way more when I don't have to edit. So let's see. The media won't show you. Oh, I think this is an Ab and Preach video. Yeah,
The fact that you got the spirit.
all right. So we're gonna get into this one. Oh, this is 13 minutes. We're gonna wrap it up for the day. We're gonna call it a day because I want to go hang out with my gorgeous fiance. And yeah, so I'll do these videos. I'm gonna do a stream again tomorrow since I know kind of how to maneuver this now. And I'll probably use a different streaming platform to try and figure out how to use things and be more efficient. But yeah, man, if you're watching this video live, I appreciate it. If you're watching a rerun of this video, hopefully you don't cancel me. Hopefully you don't view me in a negative light, and hopefully you view me in a positive light and you like the perspective that I had on some topics. And maybe you can comment and tell me what you didn't like about anything I had to say. But anyways, I hope you have a blessed day,